we need very narrow beam width antennas. And for search radar applications, we need larger beam width. And similarly, antennas for cell phones should have low directivity because the signal may come from any direction. Okay, so your antennas should have low directivity. Then only it can able to receive signals from any direction, and the antenna receiver can pick the signals from all directions. But if you take a satellite dish antennas, it should have very high directivity because they have to receive signals from a fixed directions. Our even our dish antennas, what we are using to receive the television signals, signals should have high directivity. Then only it can able to receive signals from a fixed direction. And here we have given directivity of a few antennas, that is short dipole antenna, half-wave dipole antenna. Where short dipole antenna is nothing but the elementary dipole antenna designed by Hertz, the Hertz antenna, and half-wave dipole antenna. We have patch antenna, horn antenna, and dish antenna. The directivity of dish antenna is around 10,000. Okay, and it's given in dB. dB, how you will find it's a 20 log. 1.5 is nothing but 1.76, because here you have to take a actually if you involve electric field and magnetic field, you have to find 20 log, otherwise it is 10 log. But you are defining directivity in terms of maximum radiated power to average radiated power, so it is 10 log 1.76. 1.5 will give you 1.76. And we have another antenna parameter called effective area or effective aperture. It describes how much power is captured from a given plane wave, and you can relate this effective aperture or effective area with the directivity. It is lambda square d by 4 pi. Or you can otherwise define effective area as nothing but the area which effectively involves in radio transmission or reception. And antenna efficiency, this is nothing but a ratio of power delivered to the antenna to the relative input power. Power radiated to power input. Power radiated power by input power, because in practical antennas will have losses, so you can't say that the power what you feed to the antenna will be completely radiated. No, it's not like that. There will be certain losses. So the power radiated will be always less than the input power given to the antenna. And so antenna has certain losses. So mismatch loss, the antenna has conduction losses, and even transmission line possesses certain losses. Okay. So the increased electrical efficiency means more of your RF energy will go up and out of the antenna and not be trapped, creating heat energy. The efficiency ranges from 0 to 1. If the efficiency is 90%, means almost all power what you have to the antenna is radiated into space. Next, we have antenna gain. Antenna gain and directivity are directly proportional. Antenna gain describes how much power is transmitted in the direction of peak radiation to that of an isotropic source. So to define gain, we need an isotropic radiator, which is called as a reference antenna, because it's a theoretical antenna. It is taken as a reference antenna. It's a lossless antenna. So antenna is a passive device. So you can't define gain of an antenna as output by input, output power by input power, or output voltage by input voltage. You can't define antenna gain like that, as it's a passive device. Here we have taken one reference antenna named as isotropic antenna to define the gain. So antenna gain is nothing but how much power is transmitted in the direction of peak radiation to that of an isotropic source. That is power radiated by your test antenna by power radiated by your isotropic antenna for the same input power. So for example, a transmitting antenna with the gain of 3 dB means that the power received from the antenna will be 3 dB higher than the power received from isotropic antenna. For the same, both the antennas are fed with same input power. So gain is directly proportional to directivity. So gain is equal to epsilon r d, where epsilon r is nothing but radiation efficiency. Radiation efficiency. Ideal case, G is equal to D. And in case of 100% efficiency, that's not possible in practical. Then we have main beam and side lobes. Already we discussed. Main lobes indicate radiation in desired direction, and you'll have maximum radiation along main lobe direction. And side lobes are smaller beams. Side lobes represent radiation in undesired direction. Side lobes must be completely eliminated or must be reduced to certain level. The allowable side lobe level is minus 10 dB or minus 20 dB. In certain applications, it should be minus 10 dB, or certain applications, it can be minus 20 dB. We have half power beam width. So angular width between 2 points where the power is reduced to half of its maximum. That's why it's called as half power. And if you find 10 log half, it is 3 dB. 10 log 0.5 was 3 dB. Then we have first null beam width or null to null beam width. And the next antenna parameter is polarization. Polarization of an antenna refers to the orientation of electric field it produces. The EM wave will have both electric and magnetic field components. Both E and H are vector components. Okay, so you can define amplitude and directions of those two vectors. If the direction of E is perpendicular with respect to ground or plane surface, then the antenna is said to be vertically polarized. If the direction of E is horizontal, or parallel to the plane surface, then the antenna is said to be horizontally polarized. The orientation of antenna also decides the polarization. Suppose if you install an antenna vertically with respect to ground, it will produce vertically polarized waves. That is, the EM wave will consist of electric field vector which is perpendicular to the plane surface. Because this polarization is much important, because the receiving antenna should have the same polarization as that of your transmitting antenna. Then only we can able to receive maximum power at the receiver. Here E is vertical, so this particular EM wave is produced by vertically polarized antenna. And we have circular polarization also. So there are two types of linear polarization. One is horizontal, another one is vertical. And circular polarization we have, okay. Suppose if you are transmitting antennas vertically installed, so you need to install your receiving antenna also vertically. Then only it can able to receive that vertically polarized antenna. Suppose if your receiving antenna is a horizontally polarized one, you won't receive any signal at the receiver. So this is a circularly polarized antenna. It's nothing but a helical antenna. Here the direction of electric field will be circular. Direction of electric field, the polarization depends purely on the direction of electric field vector or orientation of electric field vector. So in the helical antenna produces circularly polarized wave or partially circularly polarized wave. The direction of E will be circular. And we have elliptically polarized antenna, but that is seldom used. Here we have antenna, then this horizontally polarized one exists, vertically polarized, and we have dual polarized antenna, cross polarized antenna, then a right hand circularly polarized, left hand circularly polarized antenna. Right hand circularly polarized means the phase shift. This is based on the phase shift. If you have electric field vector, it will have three components: Ex, Ey. For example, in rectangular coordinate, I am saying Ex, Ey, Ez. It's well known coordinate for you. So if Ex and Ey should have same amplitude, sorry. Okay, so in right hand circularly polarized wave, the phase shift will be 90 degree leading, okay, and in a left hand it is 90-degree lagging. And here the amplitudes of or the field strengths of two waves, that is E1 and E2, will be in phase in case of circularly polarized wave. And if they are not equal, if the amplitudes are not equal, means you will get an elliptically polarized wave. And this is radiation resistance. Radiation resistance represents the radiation by an antenna, and it gives the relationship between total energy radiated from the transmitting antenna and current flowing through the antenna. That is, total power radiated is nothing but I square RR, where RR is the radiation resistance, I is the current flowing through the antenna. Or you can otherwise define radiation resistance as a fictitious resistance, which when substituted in series with the antenna will consume same power as is actually radiated by the antenna. It's an imaginary resistance. Okay, if you substitute this resistance in series with the antenna will consume same power as is actually radiated by the antenna. You know, the energy supplied, actually the antenna will be supplied with RF energy, so that will be dissipated in the form of electromagnetic wave, that is the desired one. Okay, or there will be some losses. Okay, so as ohmic losses in the antenna wire or nearby dielectrics, there may be nearby conductors to your antenna, so due to that you may have due to that you have losses. Okay, so the total input power fed to the antenna is nothing but radiated power plus power losses. Okay, Wi is nothing but input power to the antenna, and WR is the power radiated into the space. So this is the desired one, and WL is nothing but power dissipated or power lost in the form of heat. This is nothing but I square RL. So power radiated is nothing but I square RR, where I is the current flowing through the antenna. And you know, radiation resistance depends on configuration of the antenna. It varies from structure to structure. And for example, if you take half wave dipole, the radiation resistance is 73 ohms, and for monopole it is 36.5 ohms, and for dipole it's n square into radiation resistance of half wave dipole, and so on. And the radiation resistance RR depends on the point where the resistance is considered, and it also depends on the location of antenna with respect to ground and other objects. Next is antenna beam width. It's similar to the definition of bandwidth of an amplifier. You know how to define a bandwidth of an amplifier. From the frequency response, you will draw a 3 dB line, or it's the range of frequencies over which the gain is constant. The gain, amplifier gain is constant. In the same way here you can define as the range of frequencies on either side of center frequency where the antenna parameters are within an acceptable value of those at the center frequency. Okay, so for example, a center frequency is nothing but operating frequency of the antenna or the resonant frequency. For example, you know the various antenna parameters, directivity, radiation pattern, gain, beam width, polarization. So these are efficiency. So these are antenna parameters. For example, the gain is, antenna gain is 5 decibels at center frequency. So then, for example, the center frequency may be 100 megahertz. Suppose if your antenna provides the same gain from 80 to 120 megahertz, the bandwidth is now 40 megahertz. Okay, so range of frequencies on either side of center frequency where the antenna parameters are within an acceptable value of those at the center frequency. So at center frequency, the gain is 5 decibels. So the same gain is maintained on either side of the center frequency. So for example, from 80 megahertz to 120 megahertz, the antenna provides the same gain of 5 decibels. So it means that the antenna bandwidth is 40 megahertz. Okay, and we have two types of major classifications of antennas, or wideband antennas and narrowband antennas. You know, all antennas will fall into these two categories. Either it may be a broadband antenna, or it may be a narrowband antenna. So for a broadband antenna, the bandwidth is expressed as the ratio of upper to lower frequencies. And for narrowband antenna, bandwidth is expressed as percentage of frequency difference between upper to lower frequencies. So for example, for broadband antenna, it will be defined like this. For example, 10:1. So 10 is, it's a relative amplitude, relative frequency ratio. Okay, so upper frequency is 10 times greater than that of your lower frequency. 15:1 means 15 times greater than the lower frequency. And for narrowband antennas, it is expressed as the percentage of frequency difference. So for example, if you have if it is a 10% bandwidth, it indicates that the frequency difference is 10% of the center frequency. For example, if center frequency is 100 megahertz, so 10% is nothing but 10 megahertz. So the frequency difference between upper and lower frequencies is 10 megahertz. So 95 is the lower frequency and 105 is the upper frequency. And we have another parameter is quality factor. Generally, for any antenna, the quality factor should be low. Then only you will get better bandwidth. We always prefer large bandwidth antennas. Then only you can able to transmit a large amount of data. Lower the Q of the antenna, higher will be the bandwidth. And this is the formula which relates bandwidth and quality factor. And we have effect of ground in radio transmission. So when an antenna is installed within few.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Mr. Santosh Kumar, please mute your audio. Mr. Santosh Kumar, please mute your audio. Mr. Santosh Kumar, please mute your audio. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So when an antenna is installed within few wavelengths of the ground, the earth acts as a reflector and has a considerable influence on the radiation pattern of the antenna. So ground effects are important through high frequency range, and at very high frequency and above that, the antenna will be usually far above the earth so that the reflections are not significant. So ground effects are very complex because characteristics of the ground are variable. So you should be very careful while installing your antenna. It should be well above the ground plane. Otherwise, the ground will introduce losses into your transmission and will extract energy from your electromagnetic wave. And then we will quickly go through the various types of antennas. Then we will see the design concept. Actually, you can classify the antennas into two major categories: wire type antennas or aperture type antennas. Under wire type, we have dipoles, monopoles, biconical antennas, loop antennas, helical antenna, rhombic antenna, then log periodic antenna, and so on. Under aperture type, we have horn antenna, parabolic reflector, slot antenna, microstrip antenna. Then antennas may be linearly polarized antennas or circularly polarized antennas, or antenna may be a single antenna, or it may have more than one elements, because array concept is also there. Suppose if you want to increase gain of your antenna, you can have more than one elements. Might have you might have learned about a broadside array, end-fire array. So if you have more than one dipoles, you can able to improve the gain of the antenna. So we have a broadside antenna, end-fire antenna, and collinear array antenna, phased array antenna. Okay, the main aim is to increase the gain. We go for antenna array. Then we have a narrowband antenna and broadband antenna. Bandwidth will be very small, and for other case it is wide. Then we have transmitting antenna, receiving antenna, and this is various frequency bands in electromagnetic spectrum. There is extremely low frequency to visible spectrum. Starts from 3 to 30 hertz until 400 to 790 terahertz it extends, and the equivalent value in wavelength, that is the frequency is f, wavelength is lambda is equal to c by f. So you will get in wavelength terms. And application of various bands. You know, the high frequency band is used for shortwave radio communication, and medium frequency is for aviation, AM radio, very high frequency for FM radio. So applications of various bands, various frequency bands. And the antennas suitable for various frequency bands. For example, if it's a VLF and low frequency applications, very low frequency and low frequency applications, you can prefer a vertical radiator. It's nothing but your monopole antenna. Vertical radiators are simply a monopole radiator or top-loaded monopoles, T and inverted L antennas. And for medium frequency, you can use monopoles and dipoles and other directional antennas. Then high frequency antennas are log periodic antenna, conical dipole, vertical whip antenna. Whip antennas are usually used in COS, rhombic antenna, fan dipole antenna. Then for very high frequency and ultra high frequency, these antennas are preferred. Yahoo antenna, log periodic antenna, helical antenna, panel antennas, parabolic antennas, disc cone antennas, corner reflector antennas. Then super high frequency and extra high frequency antennas are given. A microstrip patch antenna will fall into this band. Fractal antennas, pyramidal horn, parabolic. Okay, and various antennas, their shape, gain, and beam width, 3 dB, beam width and radiation pattern are summarized here, starting from isotropic. Then we have dipole antenna, radiation pattern is bidirectional, figure of 8, and the 3D pattern is downward shaped. Loop antenna, and then Yahoo antenna, helical, parabolic dipole, horn, biconical horn. So quick glance of all the antennas. So half wave dipole, the length of half wave dipole will be lambda by 2, and this is the basic antenna for designing other antennas. If you take array antennas, you'll have number of dipoles, half wave dipole, and you can use this formula to find length of half wave dipole. Length of half wave dipole is nothing but lambda by 2, where lambda is c by f. This half wave dipole will be fed at the center, and this is structure of half wave dipole. Length is lambda by 2, and it will have maximum current at the center, and when it moves away from the center, the current gradually reduces. And this is the radiation pattern. So figure of 8, it's a bidirectional pattern, and it is symmetrical about the axis. And next one is folded dipole. Okay, why we go for folded dipole? Folded dipole will include one or more dipoles, and you will fold the dipoles. Okay, you will fold the dipoles, and the reason for using folded dipole is to get higher input impedance. If you take half wave dipole, the input impedance is 73 ohms, but in case of folded dipole, you will get n square into 73 ohms. Suppose if you have a two-way folded dipole, you will get 4 into 73 ohms, around 300 ohms. You will get in the radiation resistance will be around 300 ohms. For any antenna, the radiation resistance should be high. This folded dipole was widely used in Yahoo antenna. Yahoo antenna was used earlier for television reception. So this folded dipole is the driven element in Yahoo antenna, as it provides high radiation resistance. This is preferred. Then we have loop antenna. A conducting coil.
Ma'am, excuse me. Ma'am, kindly repeat the importance of folded dipole.
Okay. Okay, so if you take a half wave dipole, you'll have only a single element, okay, and its radiation resistance is 73 ohms. It is well-known one, and so there's a mathematical expression to derive the radiation resistance of half-wave dipole. And if you take two parallel conductors of half wavelength length, and if you fold one dipole and you have to separate these two dipoles at a distance which is very short compared with the length of the antenna. The spacing between these two dipoles should be very small. Okay, should be very small, and this will offer a high radiation resistance compared to your half-wave dipole. The radiation resistance of folded dipole is n square into 73 ohms, where n is the number of dipoles used. Okay, number of dipoles used. You can have either two-way folded dipole or three-way folded dipole. So if it's a two-way folded dipole, it is 2 square into 73. So it is around it's around 70. Sorry, it's around 273. I think it's around. It's around 292 ohms. Similarly, if you have a three-way folded dipole, you will get a radiation resistance of 657 ohms. I think the spacing should be very small. Okay, the spacing also decides the radiation resistance. And this folded dipole is used as a driven element in Yahuda antenna. Okay, we'll see what is Yahuda antenna. And actually, earlier half-wave dipole was used, but as it provides 73 ohms only, and due to loading effect, the 73 ohms again gets reduced. So there is no use of using that Yahuda antenna. So that's why nowadays they are using folded dipole as driven element in Yahuda antenna. It improves the radiation resistance, even though the radiation resistance may be so due to loading effect, a few amount may be dissipated as heat. You can able to get better radiation resistance if we use folded dipole. Then we have a loop antenna. This is widely used in direction finding applications. We have just a conducting coil. A conducting wire will be wound in the shape of a circle or in the shape of a rectangle or triangle. Okay. And we have two types of loop antennas. Air wound loops, the first one. Next one is ferrite core loop sticks. But the transmission efficiency of loop antennas or transmission efficiency is very low. So that's why this, loop antenna, these antennas are used as receiving antennas, not for transmission purposes. Then we have a helical antenna. Okay, helical antenna, it provides a unidirectional pattern. Helix wire is wound in the shape of a screw thread, and it operates in two modes, normal mode and axial mode, and it provides different radiation patterns in both the modes. If you prefer, if you need unidirectional pattern, you can operate the antenna in axial mode. In axial mode, actually the modes are decided based on their size and spacing between the turns. Here S is nothing but spacing between the turns. So that decides the operating mode of the antenna. And the circumference is nothing but pi into d, where d is the diameter of the helix. Here it's given. So if the circumference of the helix is lambda, it will operate in a normal mode, and it provides a bidirectional pattern. The other side, if C is between lambda by 2 and lambda by between lambda by 4 and lambda by 2, it operates in axial mode. It provides unidirectional pattern. And we have Yahuda antenna. So this is the structure of Yahuda antenna. You might have seen this Yahuda antenna. This was used earlier to receive television signals, to receive our Doordarshan. And the first one is reflector, next one is a driven element, third one is director. Actually here in the figure we have half-wave dipole as driven element, but it's replaced by folded dipole. It will have one reflector. The first element is reflector, R, and its length is above 0.5 lambda. 0.5 lambda in the sense lambda by 2, half-wave dipole. And next we have a driven element, it's approximately equal to lambda by 2. Then we have directors less than lambda by 2, and all elements are arranged collinearly and they are close together. The spacing should be a minimum. So not all the elements will be fed with the current. Only the driven element will be connected to the transmitter or to the receiver. The other two elements, that is reflectors and driven elements, are electrically coupled with your driven element. And to increase, this antenna provides better gain. It's a high gain antenna compared to single dipole. This provides better gain and directivity, and to increase the directivity we can increase the number of directors. You can have more than one directors. In the diagram we have only one director of length 0.43 lambda. You can have more than one directors. Okay, spacing and actually it provides unidirectional pattern. As the reflector prevents backward radiation, you will get a unidirectional radiation pattern, but you can make it as bidirectional also, and it improves the front to back ratio, because as there is no backward radiation, you will get a very good front to back ratio. FTR, you will get a very good front to back ratio FTR. This is the radiation pattern of the antenna. Next, we have a rhombic antenna. These are all otherwise called as traveling wave antennas. Traveling wave antennas will provide larger bandwidth. Okay, these rhombic antennas are high bandwidth antennas. And this is the structure of a rhombic antenna and provides unidirectional pattern. Here there are 4 wires. And the antenna will be terminated at the other end. So here the design parameters for the rhombic antennas. Actually, the antenna will be installed at a height of h from the ground. Okay, so h is the height above the ground. So while designing a rhombic antenna, you need to consider the height above ground. What should be the height above ground, and what is the length of each wire? There are 4 conducting wires arranged in the shape of diamond. So what is the length of each wire? And we have 5. 5 is the elevation angle. And so these are the design parameters for rhombic antenna, and we have different design techniques. This antenna will be installed horizontally above the ground plane at a distance of h from the ground. Okay, at a distance of h above the ground, and as it is horizontally installed, it will produce horizontally polarized wave. That is, the direction of electric field vector will be horizontal with respect to the plane surface. And this is easier to construct, but only thing is it provides better gain and better efficiency. Okay, but as its size is large, it will occupy more space. So installation is a tough task, and it provides larger side lobes. Even in the diagram we have 4 side lobes, 1 major lobe, and there are 4 side lobes. And applications used in long distance communication, point to point communication, radio communication, and so on. Then we have antenna arrays, already we have seen. Then we will see microstrip patch antenna. Microstrip patch antenna is the antenna widely used nowadays. Okay, this antenna is the base for many antenna designs, and this is otherwise called as a printed antenna. It operates at microwave frequencies, that is above 1 gigahertz. It was invented by Bob Monson in the year 1972. And okay, what is the need for microstrip antenna? And this can be easily mounted on any flat surface. And the profile of this antenna is very small. It's a very low profile, lightweight antenna. So it can be easily mounted on any flat surface. For example, it's widely used in aircrafts, spacecraft applications. And the impedance matching is very simple. And okay, and the thing is, the quality factor of this microstrip antenna is very high. Actually, high quality factor indicates a narrow bandwidth. Okay, narrow leads to narrow bandwidth and low efficiency. But this can be actually, we prefer antennas with low quality factor, but microstrip antennas provide high quality factor, and this will lead to this will lead to narrow bandwidth and low efficiency. So you can increase this efficiency, and you can increase the bandwidth by reducing the quality factor. So how to reduce the quality factor? By increasing the thickness of the dielectric substrate used. So we will see the structure of microstrip antenna. What are the different elements in different parts of microstrip antenna? So this is on microstrip patch antenna. UHF patch antenna used at the UHF band, ultra high frequency band, and this patch antenna is used in many spacecraft programs, used in small spacecraft programs, and able to support the high data rates to at least 10 watts of transmitter power, and it's used in GPS, USAF, that is US Air Force, NASA Space Network, then a radar transponder, the NASA Defense Network, and this antenna provides linear polarization as well as the circular polarization. So the main advantage of microstrip antenna is it is for lightweight and low cost, and you can easily install on any surface. And this can be integrated with the printers, strip-line feed networks, and other active devices. And the antenna includes this is the structure of microstrip antenna. It includes the radiating patch. The yellow, the blue shaded one is nothing but radiating patch. It's a rectangular patch, and the gray shaded one is nothing but your dielectric substrate. Then below dielectric substrate, we have ground plane. It's also made up of a conducting material, maybe copper. And nowadays we have a defective ground plane. Okay, here the ground plane is having same length and width of your dielectric substrate, or you can have a defective ground plane. The size can be reduced. Okay, and these are all the various design parameters for rectangular patch antenna. The operating frequency, then dielectric constant of the these things. These parameters are needed to find width and length of patches or substrate and so on. So operating frequency, dielectric constant of the substrate, then height of dielectric substrate, then height of the patch. Height of the conductor, in the sense here the patch is the conductor, it's made up of conducting material. The other parameters are width of the patch and length of the patch, then width and length of the ground plane and substrate. Okay, the patch is usually made up of copper or gold, but copper is always preferred. Gold is a very costly metal. So, and the field lines are photo etched. And these are all the design equations for a patch antenna, for a microstrip patch antenna. And width is nothing but a C by 2 F naught, square root of epsilon R plus 1 by 2. Here epsilon R is nothing but a relative permittivity. It's nothing but a relative permittivity of a dielectric material what we are choosing, and F naught is the operating frequency, and C is velocity of light. It is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meters per second. And to find effective length, we have C by 2 F naught square root of epsilon or effective epsilon. That is effective dielectric constant, and this can be calculated using the second formula. And we have fringing length del L. It's given in the figure, because here microstrip antennas radiate based on the fringing effect. And you can compute the length, that is effective length minus 2 del L will give you the actual length of the antenna. Similarly, actual width, you can compute a length of ground plane and the width of ground plane using this formula, 2 into L and 2 into W. So if you want to go for a very detailed design, you need to compute the length of inset and what is the length, what is the gap. We will consider the gap and the width of microstrip feed line. Okay, you can even design the width of microstrip feed line. You can either have a microstrip feed or coaxial feed or aperture coupled feed for your microstrip patch antenna, and you can you can get the width of microstrip feed line. The formulas given here. Okay, and these are all the substrates or dielectric materials preferred for any microstrip patch antenna: honeycomb, duroid, duroid, quartz, alumina, FR4, flame retardant. FR4 means flame retardant. It has dielectric constant of 4.7. This is widely used, and a thicker substrate will increase the radiation power and reduce conductor losses and will improve bandwidth. So the substrate thickness should be high. This will increase radiation power, reduce conductor loss, and will improve bandwidth. So these are all the advantages of microstrip patch antenna. Of course, fabrication cost is less, and you can integrate this with microwave integrators, like use MICs, and it can operate either in dual band or triple band bands, and it supports both linear and circular polarization, and it's of less expensive, less size, low mass, weight is less, mechanically robust when mounted on rigid surfaces, high performance, occupies low volume. And disadvantages: narrow bandwidth. This is because of high quality factor. This is because of high quality factor. Because of high quality factor, you are getting a low bandwidth. In the first slide we have seen. Okay, first slide we have seen, but you can reduce this quality factor by increasing the thickness of dielectric substrate. So increase the thickness of dielectric substrate, that will improve the radiation power, bandwidth. So bandwidth is improved because the quality factor gets reduced. Provides lower gain, large ohmic losses. Even though it has these limitations, still it is used in many applications due to other advantages. Because advantages, low power handling capacity. So how to improve? Actually, it provides low efficiency and okay, how to improve gain? It provides low power gain. So how to improve that? By using array configuration. Okay, the main advantage of array configuration is to provide high gain or high directivity. So by using array of microstrips, you can have a better gain. And so surface wave associated limitations are there. Surface wave associated limitations are there, such as poor efficiency, mutual coupling, increased mutual coupling, gain is reduced, and you may not get the desired pattern. So this can be overcome by using electromagnetic band gap structures, EBG materials. Okay, EBG based antennas are preferred in microstrip antennas. And the bandwidth can be increased up to 60 degrees by using these techniques, by increasing the substrate thickness, already we discussed, and by decreasing the dielectric constant of the antenna substrate. It's better to use dielectric substrate having low dielectric constant. Thickness should be high, but at the same time, the dielectric constants having, the substrates having low dielectric constant should be used. And these are all the applications of microstrip antennas. K-mobile, GPS, broadcasting, direct broadcast television, and RFID. Then worldwide interoperability for microwave access. That is WiMAX, used in WiMAX applications, wireless LANs. So this is on a design example for a microstrip patch antenna. So you will be given the operating frequency of the antenna, and you have to choose a suitable material for your design. Here we have chosen dielectric substrate having a dielectric constant of 4.7 and height is 1.6 mm, and height of the conductor. This is height of the patch. Height of the patch, the rectangular patch or a square patch is of 0.05. So using using these four data, you can able to design your microstrip patch antenna. You can compute width of microstrip patch antenna, then insert feed. I mean feed length. Okay, and effective length you have to calculate, and from that you can calculate the length of patch. So these are all the parameters. Okay, here we have LG means length of ground plane, WG is length of width of a ground plane, GPF is the gap, HD height of substrate height of um, okay. Actually, your microstrip antenna provides lower bandwidth. Okay, it provides lower bandwidth. How to improve this bandwidth? How to improve the bandwidth and also efficiency? Microstrip antennas provide lower efficiency and lower bandwidth. To improve the bandwidth and efficiency, we are making slots in that patch antenna. We are making slots in the patch antenna. So slot antenna provides very good bandwidth and efficiency. Okay, generally slot antenna is complementary to your dipole antenna. Your dipole antenna will have a conducting material and is surrounded by free space. And your slot antenna is nothing but a conducting sheet will be there. And inside that sheet, you will make a you will remove a portion. For example, you will remove a rectangular. You will make a rectangular slot, or you will make a square slot or circular slot in that conducting sheet. So a slot is a vacuum surrounded by conducting material. It's complementary to a dipole antenna, and similar to your dipole antenna. Here also the shape and size decides the radiation pattern, and this antenna is preferred at UHF and microwave bands. Is used in radar applications, and we have sector antennas for used for cell phone base stations, and even you can find us in our desktop microwave sources used for search purposes and used in ham applications also. Okay, and it's a complementary to your dipole antenna. So if you install a dipole vertically, it will provide you a vertically polarized wave. But a vertical slot will provide you horizontally polarized wave. So this is complement of your dipole. So a vertical slot will provide you a horizontally polarized wave. Similarly, a horizontal slot will provide you vertically polarized wave. And this is the radiation resistance of slot antenna around 500 ohms. The radiation resistance is around 500 ohms. You can either feed at the center or you can feed at one corner. It's called as offset feed. It can be fed using a coaxial cable. So slot antenna, you have conducting sheet, then a rectangular slot is there. Then we have biconical slot, and so here the slot is made in a microstrip patch. Slot is made in a microstrip patch. We have coaxial feed, CPW feed, coaxial feed, and we have orange shaded one is nothing but your dielectric substrate. Then you have a ground plane, and above that you have also a metal surface, a conducting sheet. And orange shaded one is nothing but it's a slot. So you can make slots in a curved sheet or cylinder, or in a plain conducting sheet. Okay, this I conclude my presentation. Have any queries? I'm ready to answer. Alan? So hope I covered the basic antenna concepts and the various antenna parameters used while designing any antenna. These antenna parameters must be analyzed. Okay, must be analyzed before installing any antenna. Okay. Is there any queries?
Ma'am, can you please explain about the fringing field effects?
Actually, if you take a microstrip antenna, the width of your patch is smaller than the width of your ground plane, no? Width of patch will be less than, I mean, it will be smaller than the width of ground plane. So that makes fringing effect. So actually, fringing effect is, and microstrip antenna radiates only due to this fringing effect. If you make the patch almost, for example, almost equal to your ground plane width, this effect will be still better, and you can have better radiation. I will take a diagram for this.
Ma'am?
Yes, Alan?
Ma'am, we have few questions in the chat window, ma'am.
Yes, I'm looking into those questions.
What is the forward-backward ratio with respect to radiation pattern of an antenna, ma'am?
Actually, front to back ratio. Suppose if an antenna has only one major lobe, suppose if it has a unidirectional pattern, you have better front to back ratio, because there is no backward radiation. There is no backward radiation. If the antenna radiates in the desired direction, you have a better front to back ratio. There is no reflection. If there is no reflection in the undesired direction or backward direction, okay, if there is no radiation in backward direction, the front to back ratio will be better. For a unidirectional antenna, this is front to back ratio is very high for all unidirectional antennas.
I have doubt.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Ma'am, please ask the question, ma'am.
Alan? Alan, answer சொல்லிட்டேன்.
Ma'am, we have இல்ல நான் உங்ககிட்ட சொன்னேன் ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Ma'am, we have few more questions, ma'am. How the antenna efficiency and intrinsic impedance are related?
Intrinsic impedance. Antenna efficiency and intrinsic impedance.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, intrinsic impedance of you're saying the characteristic impedance of transmission line.
It's a common question.
Common question. Actually, it's directly proportional. The intrinsic impedance is directly proportional to the efficiency only. It's directly proportional.
Okay, ma'am. There are 5 more questions in the chat window, ma'am. I will ask one by one.
Okay.
Is it possible to increase the gain for monopole antenna, ma'am?
Gain of monopole antenna. Actually, size plays important role in deciding gain. Actually, if you have monopole antenna will be vertically installed above the ground, but due to image theory, your monopole antenna is equivalent to a half-wave dipole. A perfect conducting ground plane, and above that you will install a monopole antenna that is equivalent to a half-wave dipole. That's why the radiation fields of half-wave dipole and monopole dipole will be more or less same. will be more or less same. So to increase gain of any wire antenna, you should go for array concept. Generally, gain of any wire antenna can be increased by having more than such configurations, either in parallel or generally we prefer a parallel configuration. That's why we have a broadside array, infrared array. You can go for array concept to increase the gain. Even patch antennas, to increase gain of a monopole patch antenna, you can go for array concept. You can have array of patches. We have rectangular patches. Actually, you can get a two-dimensional shape. Actually, you have a number of linear patches. You can have number of linear patches in a row. In such a way, you can have number of rows. So that forms a large rectangular microstrip patch array. Large rectangular microstrip patch array. You'll have two-dimensional linear.
4 more.
Okay. Yes.
Ma'am, which antenna is most suitable for 5G communication, ma'am?
Yeah, the research is going. It's an emerging topic. Even I am also studying those articles. It's an emerging one. 5G antennas. Actually, these antennas must operate at a very high frequency. It's above. It's around 10G like that. Okay, so nowadays we have a PIFA antenna in our mobile phone. These antennas will operate are suitable only for 4G LTE. Okay, so we need to find a suitable antenna for 5G communication. Actually, in mobile phones nowadays they are using different antennas, not only PIFA antennas. They are using some wire X antenna. If you go through the specifications of various mobile phones, if you take a Redmi Note 8 Pro, they are giving in the specification as wire X antenna. So they are designing their own antennas and naming like that. Okay, so.
Okay, ma'am. What is the operating power required for microstrip patch antenna, ma'am?
Operating power. It's operating power. Operating power. It's a low-powered antenna only. It's a low-powered antenna only. Maybe around 1 watts. So like that. It's a low-powered antenna only. You can operate even at low powers.
Okay, ma'am. Why the antenna dimensions are measured in wavelength, ma'am?
Antenna dimensions. Okay, this is an it's accepted as universal one. It's accepted as universal one because wavelength depends on frequency. Wavelength depends on operating frequency, and it uses the speed of your electromagnetic velocity of electromagnetic wave. Maybe due to that, it depends on the operating frequency of the antenna, what you have chosen.
We have 2 more questions, ma'am.
Universal measurement மாதிரி எடுத்துக்கலாம். இப்போ நம்ம வந்து we are measuring the distances in kilometers, so like that as universally accepted one, I think.
Okay, ma'am. What is the significance of dustpan antenna which is used in satellite?
Dustpan.
DUSPN.
Dustpan antenna. Sorry, no idea.
Oh, okay, ma'am. One more question, ma'am. Why the length of the reflector is more than director in dipole and in Yagi antenna?
Actually, if the antenna length is of half wavelength, it will provide only resistive impedance. In Yagi antenna we have reflector, half wave dipole, and we have number of directors. So length of reflector is more than you're half more than lambda by 2 and lengths of directors are less than lambda by 2. If the length is greater than lambda by 2, it will offer inductive impedances. It will offer inductive impedance. If the lengths are less than lambda by 2, it will offer capacitive impedances. So so actually, if the impedances are inductive, or if we have only one element now, if the impedance is inductive, the E fields radiated from this will be directed towards the source. Will be directed towards the source, not away from the source. So actually, the reflector has to direct the energy in the forward direction. Then only that's why it's called as a reflector. So as it offers high inductive reactance, it directs the energy towards the source. So that's why it will offer inductive impedance only if its length is above lambda by 2. Only if it is above lambda by 2, it will offer inductive impedance, and if it has inductive reactance, it will direct the energy or signal radiated from the reflector towards the source. So towards, in the sense, forward direction. Only because of that, the length should be above lambda by 2.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any more questions from the participants? Okay, thanks for the nice session, ma'am. You have described very beautifully from the basics and end up with the good array concept. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Madam, the purpose is simply to avoid the back propagation in the radiation of your pattern. The purpose of the reflector,
Yeah, to avoid backward radiation.
Yes, that is the main content. And
yes,
again,
sir.
the Dasprend antenna, which is used in satellite, no, it is an circularly polarized antenna, so that you can take the signal in all the directions. Satellite is kept in a higher altitude. Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Sasika, ma'am.
Ma'am, we have 2 more questions, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please ask.
Madam, why polarization is defined with respect to electric field? Why not for magnetic field, madam? Polarization.
Yeah, polarization purely depends on the orientation of electric field, not with the magnetic field. But anyway, always the magnetic field will be mutually perpendicular to electric field. Suppose if you take vertically polarized wave, the direction of E will be vertical, but H is mutually perpendicular to electric field. It will be parallel. You can define either in terms of E or H, but anyway, these two are mutually perpendicular. Thus, the direction of so E is preferred. You can define either in terms of E or H, but E is preferred. The thing is, E and H are mutually perpendicular. So either in any one field vector, I think they have defined. In vertically polarized wave, the direction of H is horizontal. Horizontal with respect to the plane surface.
Ma'am, we have 4 more questions, ma'am.
Okay.
Without using array concept, how can we increase the gain of patch antenna, ma'am?
Efficiency and bandwidth we can improve by using slot antenna. Using slot antenna, we can improve the bandwidth and efficiency. But to improve gain, we can try for maybe you can change the dimension, or you can it's a trial and error only. I'm not sure.
Okay. Mr. Malleshwaran, please mute your audio. Mr. Malleshwaran, please mute your audio.
Sure, I'll mute.
Ma'am, what is azimuth angle and elevation angle?
So what is?
Azimuth angle and elevation angle.
Actually, the antenna radiates in spherical coordinates in free space. So that's considered as spherical coordinate system. We have r, theta, and phi. So r is the radius of the sphere, or the point at which you will compute the electric or magnetic field or strength of EM wave. Generally, we will consider like that. And here theta is the elevation angle and phi is the azimuth, or theta and phi. So theta is the elevation angle and phi is the azimuth angle. Actually, the spherical
E-plane and H-plane pattern. What will be the values of these azimuth and elevation angles?
No, it depends upon the antenna that you design. It depends on the antenna you design. It depends on the antenna you have chosen. There's no defined value. Actually, theta ranges from 0 to infinity, and phi ranges from phi ranges from 0 to 2 pi. Theta ranges from 0 to pi.
Mr. Santosh Kumar, please mute your audio. Mr. Santosh Kumar, please mute your audio. Mr. Santosh Kumar, please mute your audio. Please, ma'am.
Okay. So theta ranges from 0 to pi and phi ranges from 0 to 2 pi.
Ma'am, we have 3 more questions, ma'am. What is the role of ambient temperature in designing antennas, ma'am?
Yeah, temperature, room temperature or the ambient temperature, surrounding atmospheric temperature also plays an important role. It leads to losses. The temperature leads to various losses, the dissipation of heat and all. There are certain equations to relate or to define what are the various temperatures in the atmosphere and so wait a minute, Joe.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Actually, this ambient temperature is the temperature of the far field zone of space and near surroundings, which are coupled to your antenna through your radiation resistance. Actually, we have so how it is related? What is your question, Joe? How it is related?
What is the role of ambient temperature in designing antenna?
Okay, the ambient temperature will actually will cause losses. Okay, it will cause losses and it will try to reduce the radiation resistance of antenna.
Okay, ma'am. Can you tell about loaded, unloaded, and external Q factors, ma'am?
Generally, Q factor is nothing but 2 pi into amount of energy stored by the amount of energy radiated per cycle.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, and loaded Q, if you take, I think in capacitive coupling, it's defined, I think, coupling effect. Sorry, unable to recall the topic, loaded Q, unloaded Q.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, whether we can design microstrip patch antenna using design equation only, or else we can
Using
use.
only design equation. Using only design equation. The trial and error. What I said is actually to improve gain. I think the one and only technique is to use array of patches. I think.
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
so if not, you increase the substrate thickness, or you increase the size of the patch, or use some other dielectric constant, whether it will provide a better gain, like that you can check. Because the dielectric constant, I mean, you need to use dielectric constant with low dielectric permittivity, with low dielectric constant. You need to use substrate with low dielectric permittivity. So if we use substrates better or high dielectric constant, it may reduce the efficiency of your antenna. So that's why I told you can change your substrate, or you can increase the size of your patch, or you can increase the thickness of patch. You can increase the thickness of patch, like that you can try to improve the gain.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Ma'am, you said that radiation is nothing but the distribution in electromagnetic waves, but we
Disturbance.
need, yeah,
Disturbance.
but we need a stable radiation pattern. Can you explain these terms?
No, that will give you a stable radiation pattern only, because as you will feed your antenna with a continuous RF signal, because your antenna is supplied with a continuous RF signal. So this you will get a stable pattern only. You will get a stable pattern only.
Okay, ma'am.
Same type, you can use same type of antenna for both transmitting and receiving purposes. That's why in the beginning I told, antennas are reciprocal. They obey reciprocity theorem. So you can use same antenna for transmission as well as for reception purposes.
I hope you are very exhaustive, ma'am.
Exhausted,
Thanks.
really?
2 hour session.
Okay.
Thanks for your patience, ma'am.
Okay.
Enjoy the session, and
Okay,
thanks. Thank you for teaching us from the basics and to the importance of the array. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
Joe. Okay, so shall I leave?
Yeah,
Okay.
you shall leave.
Okay. Thank you, participants.
Now we shall start our second session, which will be handled by Mr. R. Darwin, Assistant Professor, Department of ECE, Kumaraguru College of Technology, Coimbatore. He will talk based on the topic antenna simulation software and overview. He is working as Assistant Professor in Kumaraguru College of Technology. He completed his Master's in Communication Systems and BE in Electronics and Communication Systems. He has a work experience of 11 years in teaching as well as industry. He has the area of specialization as electromagnetic fields, transmission line and waveguides, antennas and wave propagation, as well as microwave engineering. He registered his PhD in July 2015 and in the area of massive MIMO. He has the license to establish, maintain, and work an amateur wireless station in India with HAMP call sign as VU3 DRW. He has more than 10 publications in Scopus Index journals and similar count in participation of conferences. He conducted around 12 workshops and conferences until this date. We are very proud to have you here, sir. Kindly start your presentation. Please, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Alin. Is it audible?
Yes, sir. It's audible. If possible, kindly improve your voice, sir.
Yeah, definitely. Can you see my presentation?
Not yet, sir. Kindly share your presentation, sir. Have you shared your presentation, sir?
Yeah.
But it's not yet visible, sir.
One minute.
Yeah, it's coming.
Can you see?
Yes, sir.
Is it visible, Alan?
Yeah, it's visible, sir.
Okay. Good morning to one and all, and present here in this online seminar. Hope you all were safe and healthy during this pandemic period. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers, that is IEA Coimbatore local chapter in association with Department of EC, Kumaraguru College of Technology, and its management, especially for the coordinators of this event, Dr. S. Sashikala and Mr. Alan Joe, for offering this wonderful opportunity for me to share my knowledge to the ever enthusiastic faculty and the student who are attending this program. Also, I'd like to welcome all of you in this session on the topic antenna simulation software and overview. Hoping that this will be a fruitful session for everyone. So this is my agenda roadmap for this program. First one is why the EM simulation becoming increasingly important these days, and followed it with antenna simulation softwares, that is the leading softwares which is available in the market now, and solving methodologies which has been used in various softwares and its efficiency. And finally, the big question, which is which electromagnetic simulator should I use? That is the big question that we all have. So first is EM simulation. So this is all about the modeling the behavior of electromagnetic fields and its, its interaction with physical objects and environment. We all know that. If you look at the equations here, you can find Maxwell equation. This is the heart of electromagnetism, isn't it? Can you skip it? It's not possible. So Maxwell equation, which governs all electric, magnetic, and electromagnetic behavior, which is also it is virtually impossible to solve all four equations analytically for all the designs. Like if it is complex, it will become more and more difficult. So EM simulation